I'm hearing that still. That is weird. Oh, that's why I heard it on my Twitter channel or Twitter page. Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews, everyone. I hope you're all having a wonderful night, evening, day, wherever you are. I hope it's wonderful. So, thank God Rings of Power is over. Thank God She-Hulk's over. Thank God Halloween Ends is over. As you all saw in my review for Halloween Ends, if you tuned in earlier to that, you found out I was not a happy camper. And I hate these glasses right now because they're not getting clean. Anyway. There, that's better. Anywho, tonight we're going to have a little bit more happier time.
Yes.
We're going to be discussing The Mummy as a guest choice review thanks to Ambassador. And if you want to do a guest choice review, especially in the month of October, let me know a movie that is a horror movie, or preferably one that is enjoyed by many. And you get to pick the place or not the place, but the time and the date and the movie if you want to do a guest choice review. So with that in mind, we will be joined by Madam Ambassador shortly. Mm-hmm. But until then, we will say hello to the chat. We got, Ambassadorial Wing chanting Hemotap. Yeah, we got Christian Freights. Good to see you. And we got Neozoic. Awesome. So, The Mummy, 1999.
Yes.
One thing I do remember is that this movie, I think it was either this movie or the other movie that came out in 1999 that had to change its special effects because they both kind of had a very undead look. And I'm obviously talking about Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. I believe one of them had to change their effects because they both kind of looked a little too much.
Actually, you're half right. Pirates of the Caribbean and Lord of the Rings, you're actually a few years off. Because Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, and Pirates of the Caribbean shared something in particular with each other. Mm-hmm. They had undead characters, and it was actually Lord of the Rings that had to change the effects for the Army of the Dead.
Oh, right. I thought it was always Pirates of the Caribbean and The Mummy. Well, anyway, this movie, it has some dated CGI in it, but it also has some pretty good transitional CGI in it. And
we actually watched it in high def and everything because we have it on our Amazon Prime account. And nice. The wall of sand and the face was like, honey, I don't remember this looking this good. And she's like, that's because we're watching in high def. I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense.
Me, honestly, my eyes cannot translate the difference. But I will say that for them doing the 4K transition, it actually looks, a little sharper and less CGI-ish, to be completely honest. Which Neozoic actually asks, what is your critique on the whole CGI effects on The Mummy? Like I said, some of it is dated, some of it is very well done.
I would say for the time, it was pretty damn good. I mean,
for the time.
I mean, yeah, for the time. I mean, if you remember, there's another very CGI heavy effects film that came out in 1999. Just a few months prior or before this, that was actually episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. And that one was a little bit lesser, shall we say. And I'm a fan of Star Wars saying that.
Mm-hmm.
The Naboo battle scene looked incomplete with the droid army. But anyway, we're discussing The Mummy. Fun fact, according to Peter Jackson, the Mummy borrowed a lot of elements from his scrap 1997 King Kong script. No joke. Oh, interesting.
I wasn't aware of that. So, thank you for that
Um,
tip. Thank you for that fun fact.
so, this movie begins in 3000, 1290 something BC.
Long time ago.
Which is, a long time ago on Earth, not in a galaxy far, far away. Is an example of Indiana Jones clone done right.
Yes. Christian,
Kinda, yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Even to this day, that opening shot of Thebes, City of the
Mm-hmm.
Living, voiced over by Oded Fair.
Yeah.
As Ardith Bay.
Yeah, he does a wonderful job.
Yes, he
really
does.
does.
I mean, even on screen, Oded Frere, he is a great actor. I know he's gone on to do some other stuff, TV work, other movies, and so on. But I love him as Ardith Bay. Backtracking just a smidgen.
Mm-hmm.
When the announcement for this movie came out, the trailers for this started coming out. Mother Ambassador was like, "They're doing a new Mummy," and we saw the special effect of the sand wall, and we were like, Mother Ambassador looked at me. She's like, "Hey, honey, I think we need to go see this." I was like,
"Yeah,
you darn right, we need to go see this." I was like, "This is a remake of the Mummy, but it don't look like the Mummy that we watched." She's like, "Oh no, this ain't the Mummy that we watched.
Nice.
This isn't the Mummy that she grew up on, the old Boris Karloff."
Yeah,
but that
go ahead.
But they got together a really great cast. I mean, Brendan Fraser, Rachel Weisz, Arnold Vosloo, John Hannah, Oded Fair, as we mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the name of the guy that played Benny, but
he is in every freaking movie that Stephen Myers does.
You mean Stephen Summers?
Stephen Summers. He's like the best friend of Stephen Summers. He is in every freaking movie of his. The G.I. Joe movie. He's in freaking Van Helsing.
Yeah, he plays Igor.
Van Helsing. Yeah, Van Helsing lost, or a cast member of Van Helsing recently passed away, folks. Really? Rest in peace to Robbie Coltrane.
Robbie Coltrane? Who was... Oh, that's right. He played Mr. Hyde. That's right.
Yep. He was the voice for Hyde.
Well, he was also kind of he was a stand-in, I believe. I think they used him as a stand-in.
They actually had, or I believe they had the guy that played Frankenstein as a stand-in for Hyde. But yeah, that might he definitely provided the voice, and he did the voice for the London Assignment anime. But yes, he is very much missed. But Oded Fair, when he's going through the narration and talks about on Noxuna Moon and Imhotep, and it's like, I gotta say it, when she's walking in with all that golden makeup and whatnot, I'm like, how did she manage to sit through all that makeup? Because folks, head to toe, ass cheeks and all, is golden makeup in that, or on that actress. I can't remember the actress's name, but she did a great job. She actually was very well, she acted it very well. Now, one thing I will say, because of this movie and how the Mummy later on mistakes Rachel Weisz's character, Evie, as Noxuna Moon, that a lot of people, when they look at the Mummy 2 or the Mummy Returns, is like, are we not seeing the problem here? Yes, Patricia Velasquez.
Yeah.
But it's like, are we not seeing the problem here? That thing would have noticed, or would have been like, wait, aren't you Nefertiti?
Maybe not.
I mean, even that was a bit of a...
Well, here's the thing. Yeah. Well, here's the other thing, too, though. The eyes that Imhotep consumed were not exactly completely functional, because if you remember...
Very true. He had glass, or he had eye problems because of the glasses.
Yeah, because he's like, a knocks on the moon.
Yeah, he's like, an ox on the moon? Yeah, is that you? Oh, son of a bitch, come with me, princess. And now that you think about it, it does make sense more.
Yeah.
Now that I'm reminded of that.
Yeah,
Jesse Johnson, good to see you.
Jesse, nice to meet you.
But yeah, this movie starts out great, and they just freaking straight up murder the pharaoh. It's like no other man is allowed to touch an ox on the moon, and there's a reason why she has all the paint on her, dude. Who has touched you?
Yeah,
Oh, shit. Yep.
I know this movie so well that I can actually
recite the Egyptian.
Recite the Egyptian. And here's a fun fact that you may not know. That is phonetically and pronunciationally as close as you're going to get to authentic ancient Egyptian.
That is true. I mean, or some of it could actually be done a little bit better because you got to put in a little bit of more ha or
just a little bit because it is a
breathable language.
Well, it also is a semi-Semitic language. So, and they would have a little more emphasis, but you know what? Considering it hasn't been a spoken language for over like 3,000 years,
yeah,
I can forgive some pronunciation issues.
The second film was okay. The third film I think they should never have made a third, to be quite honest. Even though I do like a lot of the cast in it, the third film was just it didn't work.
I have to say, I would have been perfectly happy if they'd only done one, but I am happy with all three. I mean, I love all three.
I mean, don't get me wrong. The third movie is good. It's entertaining.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. And that's
it's a very big difference from the first and second.
Well, I think the biggest difference is the fact that we didn't have Rachel Weisz back as Evie, but she was otherwise.
Yeah. Hence why they had that line. Honestly, I can say she was a completely different person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good thing we're not discussing the second one. Yes.
Yes. But
that was terrible. Not even Corridor Crew could fix that.
And it's funny we're talking about the CGI for this film. They went to the best company in the business, even at the time being and everything, to do the CGI for the mummy itself, but also for a lot of the other CGI effects of this movie. And that was, of course, ILM, Industrial Light and Magic. And I have to admit, they went back to the old films and everything, particularly the Boris Karloff, the old black and white. And they looked at some of the other films, and they're like, let's see if we can breathe some new life into this old boy. And I have to admit, ILM delivered. I mean, they
really did.
They gave us a wholly believable and wholly terrifying, even to this day, I have to admit, Mummy Imhotep.
When she was reading the book to accidentally raise him, and they show him just standing there before she finishes the last Yatuhai. And then he wakes up. You'd almost think that that was one of the best transitions to a CGI that I've ever seen.
Absolutely one of the best transitions. And
it's because they kept the lighting very well done too.
Yeah, they did. Well, not to mention the reaction to the other archaeologist. He's like, "No, you must not read from the book."
That actor, I can't remember his name, but he is such a great actor.
He is. He really is. He actually he was in another, it was a late 90s or mid to late 90s. It was another heavy CGI feature called Jumanji. He played Robert Williams.
The father.
He played the dad. Yeah.
And the hunter.
And he also played,
Van Belt.
Yeah, Van Pelt.
Yep. And
of course the curator.
Yeah.
God, he also the cure. Go ahead.
Yeah. he was also in Richie Rich as the butler or the gentleman's gentleman. Kevin O'Connor, apparently.
Okay. Thank you, Christian. Appreciate it, buddy. Yeah, Kevin O'Connor. But
and go ahead.
Well, jumping ahead, we meet, of course, our heroine, Evie Carnahan, and she's, of course, a librarian. And I would say a rather fetching librarian.
That whole set was freaking nuts, man. But before we do go there, when they show the whole mummification process and the home die.
Yes. Yeah, we got to talk about that.
Yeah, when they're freaking mummified. It's like his priests were condemned to be mummified alive. It's like, well, so wasn't he. But he's like, Oded Fair just covers it. He's like, power over the sands and the glory of invincibility.
And then, of course, you have the pan up to...
I can believe that. I can fucking feel that.
Yeah.
Oded Fair's... The way that they had it, the way that they gave the echo to his voice, and the glory of invincibility. It's like, you can fucking feel that, man. That is just so great, the way that he delivers it. And then you see the time of passage from the statue of Anubis to the weathered the weathered version of it, and we see that Hominoptera has been basically being fought over for 3,000 years. And it's the French Legion or the French Foreign Legion versus some Arabics or Arabs and whatnot.
Yeah.
I love that. He just got promoted. The dude's fucking... screw this.
You just got promoted. You just got promoted. Are you with me on this?
He just got promoted. They were talking about his...
the commanding
captain
officer
that ran. Yeah. It's like, he just got promoted.
Well, Benny says to him, you just got promoted.
I thought he said he just got promoted. But, oh, well.
Nope. You just got promoted.
Oh, yeah. But, yeah, Jonathan Hyde was Cadbury. And Jonathan Hyde is the actor's name. Not Kevin O'Connor. Sorry.
I think Kevin O'Connor was the guy that played the curator, and I love the curator.
Yeah, the curator in the freaking library scene is great. I also do like how when Brendan Fraser's about to bite it in Hominoptera, and Benny leaves him and shit, and he's just standing. He's like,
"Don't you dare close that door!"
Yeah. Then they all run because the curse is awakening a little bit, and then he turns and he sees the jumping in the sand. But before he does, you actually hear the voice of
Imhotep.
You hear him whispering, and you also hear him say, "You will die."
You will die. Yep.
And it's like, well, dude, there's no wonder he believes it so clearly. But
what do you think is there? In a word, evil.
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 Believe me, folks, I have felt evil, as Van Helsing has said. Let me just say, it's not a feeling you want to feel twice. How you doing, Riot Kitty? It's always a pleasure.
Hey, Riot. Good to see you, darling.
So then we do get to Evie in the library and that whole set with the book stacks.
And
her balancing on that ladder.
And here's a fun fact. Here's a fun fact. That was all one take. They had to get it right. And the curator comes in.
Sons of the Pharaohs.
Sons of the Pharaohs. Give me flies, frogs, locusts, anything but you. Compared to you, the other plagues were a joy. She's like, I'm quite sorry, sir. He's like, I put up with you because your father and mother are finest patrons.
It was an accident, my dear. When Ramses destroyed Syria, that was an accident.
You are a catastrophe. Look at my library. I don't care how. I don't care how you do it. I don't care how long it takes. Straighten up this Mashiva.
which I believe means library in Arabic.
I'd have to look it up. Maybe.
But yeah. I was aware that
Hey,
there was a
George.
Scorpion King or a Mummy 2 game
Like
for the PlayStation.
Mummy Return game. Yeah, there was a Mummy
Yeah.
for the PS2. Yeah. And fun fact about that game. Hey, George, good to see you, buddy.
Good to see it.
This is not an early 2000s movie. This is a late 90s film, George. Get it right. Or I'll kick your butt. I'll kick it harder than him.
I'll kick your ass back to the sands of the Pharaohs.
I'll kick your ass so far you'll be here. He'll be up the Sphinx's ass.
Or we'll make you the new Sphinx's nose. There you go. Anyway.
Why is it so sunny?
Yeah.
How did I end up here?
Yeah.
How hard did you kick me? Sorry.
The introduction to her brother Jonathan, where he sticks up the dead body, scaring the hell out of her. It's like, wait, did they seriously dig out the Crypt Keeper from Tales from the Crypt for this one scene? It does fucking look like him.
It does look like the Crypt Keeper,
and it was so great. It's like, well,
I hate when those do that thing.
Have you no respect for the dead? Of course I do, but sometimes I'd much rather join them.
I wish you'd do it sooner rather
than later. And then she talks about that he's like, or before you ruin your career, or my career, like you ruined yours.
And she's like,
and
my dear sweet baby sister, I'll have you know that my career at this particular moment is on a high note.
Mm-hmm.
And then she tells him that she got rejected by the Brembridge scholars because she doesn't have enough field experience.
Yep. So, and I do like the chemistry between these two actors, Rachel and Jonathan's character, because they do have a nice rapport in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, by the way, I have something to cheer you up. And you automatically know that she automatically knows it's like something to sell. And it's like, if I have to go to the curator again with one more trinket to try to sell for you, where'd you get this? And he's like, down in Thebes.
Bull crap.
Mm-hmm. And so they find something, and she's like, I think you found something. They are going over the map. And the curator, if you watch this movie in widescreen, folks, it is blatantly obvious that this curator burnt that map on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in the full screen version, which was how I first saw it, it doesn't show him blatantly take the map, stick it very close to that flame and it's like, only an idiot would think that you did that on purpose or by accident.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you get the idea that this dude literally, there's something off about him. I mean, he just literally burnt off, and he's trying to dissuade them from talk or even thinking about pursuing Hymenoptera, because it's many people have wasted their lives in the foolish pursuit of Hymenoptera.
Some have never returned.
Nobody's ever found it. Most have never returned.
That's it.
And then it cuts straight to them at the prison where they meet Rick.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, you stole it from a thief at a local Casper. Picked his pocket, actually, so maybe we should... Who are you?
And who's abroad?
Broad? I love how she's like... Or he's like, oh, well, I guess she's not a total loss.
She definitely is not a total loss. I mean, I'll be honest now. Even now...
I've seen Rachel Weisz's ass before that movie came out, folks. Let me tell you, she's up there.
She still is.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've seen
Rachel Weisz.
I've seen clips
She's
of her
still got it.
Black. You know what? I will say this: Black Widow. From what I understand, she was a highlight of that movie.
Yeah, because obviously, whatchamacallit wasn't. Mummy Stronger. I was a mummy for Halloween for 3 years straight as a kid. This film was my Indiana Jones, the George. Nice. But yeah, there's a movie where y'all, if you really want to see her bare ass, it's a World War II movie.
Yep, enemies at the gate.
Yep, she.
I know.
I tell you, folks, it takes guts and skill to basically get it on in the middle of a freaking barracks, in the middle of a war zone, and be quiet while doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just say that, because they're surrounded by people sleeping, and they actually managed to get some. Good on them.
Yeah, good for them. Really.
Good on them.
I've only seen that movie like once or twice, but it is a damn good movie.
Fun question. How would you rank The Mummy from the worst to the best of the Universal Monsters remake from 90s to 20s? Bram Stoker's Dracula, Hollow Man, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and The Wolfman. Honestly, it would be up at the top, or closer to the top. I haven't seen Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, so I actually got to see that first. Bram Stoker's Dracula, even though Keanu Reeves was a clear miscast, was still good because they were rather very accurate to the portrayal of the novel.
Yes.
And The Wolfman with Benicio del Toro.
I've never seen it.
That movie is harmed by its extended edition.
Is it?
Yes.
To give you my take, Neozoic, for me, it's gonna be Bram Stoker's Dracula. Then it's gonna be The Mummy. I've seen Hollow Man. I will say Hollow Man's pretty darn good. I've never seen Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I haven't seen The Wolfman.
Now, the Hollow Man, the woman that he terrorizes, the naked chick, the naked chick that he terrorizes and spies on and whatnot, actually went on to slay werewolves as a vampire, highborn in Underworld: Rise of the Lycans.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yep, that was Rona Mitra.
Huh. Interesting. Okay.
But, yep.
But now I will say I will say one thing further. This is the only Mummy remake you all need to bother watching. There was another one done a few years ago.
The Tom Cruise one.
Do not bother.
I own it, and I've seen it. And if they would have cut out the dead guy, the dead friend that comes back as a spirit, that movie would have been leagues better. However, they did focus a little too much on the comedic factor.
Well, not to mention trying to build something that I don't
they
think
wanted to build the dark universe. Yeah, they wanted to rebuild the dark universe.
I don't think it was going to work. And
if they would have cut out the comedic aspect to that movie, I believe it would have.
Maybe.
Because as crazy as, or like I said, I honestly think that movie was pretty decent because they really went balls to the wall with suggestive horror. This woman, or in that movie, the girl that becomes cursed literally kills a baby to show just how evil she is. Yeah, Aminette. I mean, she takes right there, man. You see the blood and everything, but you don't see the baby obviously get it.
Obviously,
but it's like, holy crap, man. This is dark, all right. Also, Russell Crowe and wanted to be in a movie with Tom Cruise, and well, he was a pretty good hide. I'll give him that.
I've seen clips of his performances hide. It's not bad. It really
His
isn't, but
Jekyll
it's
version, his Jekyll
yeah.
self, though, was a little. It's like, I get what you're trying to do, man, but when he was prepping to, or when he was shooting himself up with the serum to suppress Hyde, it's
Mhm.
like, okay, that works, man. When you're actually suppressing yourself and explaining what or about yourself, that was pretty good. They
Yeah.
was a Mummy remake way before Brendan
Yeah. Because
won because I remember it was made by Hammer Studio. The Mummy was played by the legend Sir Christopher Lee. Son
yep.
of a bitch.
Except that mummy's name wasn't Imhotep, it was Karis.
Yeah.
And he had to drink Tana leaf tea to stay alive.
Yeah.
In this instance, Imhotep just sucked the poor, I'll just
Yep.
say the poor bastards who were around when the chest was open. They sucked the life out of them.
Well, yeah, we'll say that. Assimilate their fluids and organs. Boy,
Organs.
you make it sound so kinky. But we're getting too far ahead of ourselves. So he's like, how do we, they're asking, we found your puzzle box and we would like to know where you got it. No.
No.
No? No.
No.
You can't
You
ask
won't
me about Hominoptera.
Hominoptera.
And how do you know about? Because that's where I was when I found it. I was there.
I'm sorry. We've watched this movie way too much.
Yeah. And I love that. He's like, how do we know that's not just a load of pig swell? Do I know you? And I just love how he's like, no. I just got one of those faces. And as he's saying that, you see Brendan Fraser's eyes just open up like, he just freaking clocks him. And it's like, yeah, now he's remembering. He's like, now I know where I seen you. Fucking picked my pocket, you son of a bitch. And knocks him out. And I just love how Evie just steps over him. You were actually at Hominoptera. Yeah, I was there. You swear every damn day.
Every damn day. That's not what I mean.
I know what you meant. Seti's place, City of the Dead. Could you tell me how to get? And you also have that Arabic warden.
Oh yeah.
I'd be back in a moment. That dude, oh my god! When they get to Hominoptera, that's when it freaking turns to a horror, and I love it. But
yes.
it's just, I love how they have to save him, and they freaking do the math game with bargaining for his life. And if you free him right now, we'll give you 10%, 50%, 40, 30, 25.
25. Deal.
And then he's like, cut him down.
Now, I don't know
he's
if
like,
you know.
Any last request, pig? Yeah, listen to Halo.
Of course I'm not letting him go.
Right up at the back of the head.
Now, the one thing that I love what she's like, what seems to be the matter? Turns out he had a very good time.
Yeah. To be hanged. It turns out he had a very good time.
Very good time.
Yeah. Now, who'd you sleep with, dude?
Now, don't know if you know this or not, but during the hanging scene, he almost died.
Oh yeah, he was, or that's where his eyes were rolling. That was real.
They should take a few more precautions, just a few more.
Yeah, but it's like, folks, let's get that noops a little bit lesser and lift his ass up.
Yes.
So he's not. Yeah.
And to your comment, Christian, yes. Emphatically.
I believe he did, or I believe he is back now. I honestly don't know what led to his decline in his career, but
for one thing, it was his health, and the other thing, he's a little bit conservative. Well, not unfortunately, but he is conservative. But I think it was more so due to his health.
Well, nowadays it's probably was more to his conservative. But anyway, or what happened health-wise? What happened to him?
I think this movie had something to do with it. There was something else that happened in another movie part that he did. He got very badly injured, and he had to take some time off for a while. So
Mm.
he just
'Cause
wasn't. He was. Mhm.
yeah. They brought him back in G.I. Joe for Sergeant Stone.
Never saw it.
You never saw the G.I. Joe one? It's actually
I
not
saw.
that bad, but
If you're talking about the Rise of Cobra, I did see that one,
yeah.
but I didn't see Retaliation. I didn't see that one.
He was in Rise of Cobra as Sergeant
Was
Stone.
he?
The one that he was the one that's when Snake Eyes
Oh,
is
that
going up
was the
against
other.
Duke and he's like, again. Yeah, that was him.
Okay, and Christian brought it up. I forgot he was groped by an exec in 2003, and that kind of put his
A
career
male
on the skid.
exec?
I'm not entirely sure. Might have
Ugh.
been. Yeah,
Damn, he got
it
cast
might,
at couch. He got couched. Shit.
and that sucks. Yeah, because
Yeah,
he's
that does suck, dude.
because you know
He's
what,
a damn good actor.
damn good actor. I mean, but when they finally game loose and they're heading to I have to say it, the CGI for this movie, I mean, the practical sets notwithstanding, particularly the boat, the barge that it's going to take them up the Nile, seeing the port at Giza, seeing the pyramids in the background, it all looks so seamless. It all looks so gorgeous. I mean, I absolutely love it.
Yeah, and just to mention, it's an insert map painting for a big old green screen. But
And
actually, it was very well done.
yeah.
Yep. And they're talking about him, and then the warden shows up. Bright, good morning to all. Oh, what are you doing
What are
here?
you doing
I'm here
here?
protecting my investment.
Thank you very much.
And so then we get they're on the boat, more Americans, and we learn that the Americans are going after Hominoptera, and they have somebody who's actually been there. Well,
I
we have an
wonder
idea.
who.
Yep. And then we get the nice scene between Rick and Evie, and where he rolls out his guns, and I love her look. She's like, did I miss something? Are we going into battle? And she's smiling at him. And he's like, lady, there's something beneath that sand. And she's like, well, I don't believe in curses and hokum, Mr. O'Connell. And she discusses the Golden Book of Amun-Ra. It's basically setting it up. And then she asks him, why did you kiss me? I was about to be hanged. It seemed like a good idea at the time.
And she's like, oh.
Yeah,
like,
she strolls off offended. What'd I say?
What?
And then you hear, and then you hear the, and you see the shadow of that. You see the shadow of Benny behind the luggage, and he grabs him. He's like, what a surprise, my friend. I was so very, very worried. Oh, if it isn't my buddy Benny, I think I'll kill you. Think of my children. You don't have any children.
Someday I
might. And so he's like, so you're the one bringing the Americans. I might have known. So what's the scam here, Benny? You take him out to the middle of the desert, and then you leave him to rot? Unfortunately, no.
No, these Americans are smart. They only paid me half.
Yeah, half now, half until I get them back to Cairo. So this
time I have to go all the way.
Then the breaks. He's like, yeah. So they look at Evie, and he's like, you always did have more balls than brains. And then he's like, goodbye, Benny. Throws him right over the edge. I mean, that is such a great, yeah. And you see the people in the background of the scene. You see the people in the background, they're actually looking like, what the hell just happened here?
Well, not to mention,
which is so great.
You see the two little canoes coming up alongside the bar, and it has the Magi. It has the one hook Magi. He's like, I must touch hook now.
Yeah, and it's like they make it sound like a mechanical hook, but you can clearly see that is a hand like this under the
cloth.
The cloth. Yeah, it's like that is not a fake hand.
But you know what? It still works.
It still works, yes, because he does come across as menacing when he's looking, and you see Evie is just like totally taken by that kiss. She's like, because she's dropping, she's unable to focus. Oh, for heaven's sakes, it wasn't that good of a kiss anyway. And then shit happens. But also he notices that, or he noticed there was feet or wet feet on the boat.
Footprints.
Yeah. And he's like, wait, Benny didn't get up here that quick, did he?
Nope.
And I love how you also see he looks at the candlelight, sees that there's a draft, and then he looks to the side, immediately starts shooting. Now, how he's so cavalier. The map, we forgot the map. It's okay. On the map.
All up here. Well, that's comforting.
And and then the other guy she put a candle in his eye, and a lit candle, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
And he sees the key. He's like, the key! Yeah. And freaking Jonathan just knocks him into the fire. That is
and he still can't grab the key from him.
Yeah, and he goes to grab it. Now, if you look, and then you see that the guy puts the hook down, it's on the side of the other guy, or it's on the side of the hook guy, that Jonathan's other hand comes out. That's a movie mistake. And I'm like, magic.
You know,
hey, Price is Right.
Hey, Bryce, good to see you, pal. Oh, I feel special. I'm his favorite peep.
Yep. But hey, it's a movie mistake, but it's one that's so quick, like blink you'll miss.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I will say the fire effects for that one Magi was pretty darn good. And they took a lot of precautions. And you can kind of see that he's wearing a false face or whatever, or a helmet.
Yes.
But you know what? It
works.
It still works. You know, because it's very working with fire. It's always really tricky because you've got to be careful with the actor or the actress or the stunt person.
The last time they actually updated fire effects for people was Watchmen, the movie Watchmen, where the one of the riot people gets lit on fire. They soak the dude down in a fire retardant gel, and then they light him up with a little bit of fire. And it's like, okay, that's an update. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
But this one, I love how O'Connell's getting ready to jump, and he's like, "Can you swim?" Of course I can swim if the occasion calls for it.
Believe me.
And he's like, "Believe me, it calls for it." And he throws her overboard, and he's getting ready. Just
and he's like, and he talks to the warden. And he's like, "What do we do?
What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Wait here.
Like, wait here.
I'll get help.
I'll go get help."
And the dude actually fucking waits until he realizes it.
Like, yalla.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh my god, dude, you actually fucking fell for that.
I know.
And so
I know.
And then they all get off, and they're on one side of the river, and freaking Benny's like, "Hey, I got him!" And he's like, looks to me like, "I got all the horses." Hey, Benny, it looks to me like you're on the wrong side of the river. And he's like, yeah. And then he actually looks, and then he starts freaking swearing in Hungarian. And I'm like, yeah. And so then they're at a way station, sort of. And
it's not a way station per se, it's a camp.
Yeah, it's a camp for what's her name? Evie gets a nice black
makeover
outfit. And the warden's getting beat on by the women because he's kind of perving on them. And Jonathan having to buy 4 camels, and he's pissed off about the price.
Like, I don't want the whole bloody herd.
I just want 4. I want 4, not the whole bloody herd. Would you just pay the man? Could have got him for free. All you had to do was give him your sister.
Awfully tempting, isn't it, though? Yeah.
And then he sees how beautiful she looks and whatnot. And it's like, awfully. Yeah.
Like, no. That's what he
the
might like.
camels. Yeah. That's actually one scene that I don't mind skipping is the camel where the warden is just hawking loogies and starts
Well, he's
singing.
actually eating. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's then singing, and I'm like, I could go without hearing all this. This is just
But
ridiculous. Mm, it's
I
filler.
have to.
It's filler.
But you know what? Something we haven't really discussed. The score for this movie is
Yes,
epic.
they
It's
really did focus on
beautiful.
an Egyptian sound for this
It
film's
is. It
score.
was so beautiful. Absolutely
Who did the
beautiful.
score for this?
I'm honestly not sure, but I can find out.
Yeah. Excuse me. And then we see the Magi watching him as they were watching in the beginning during his first time. Now, if you ask me, Oded Fair speaking Arabic, and the last word out of his mouth every time up to that point was Dalal. It's like, okay. He says the creature remains undisturbed. Something, 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 Dalal. And then
Yeah, you notice that too?
he's saying the desert will kill him. Dalal. And then he's like, this one has strength. Something, 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 Dalal. And it's like, so if I wanted to learn Arabic, does that mean that Dalal means like every fucking thing you want it to mean?
Here's the thing.
Jerry Goldsmith.
Yeah, Jerry Goldsmith. I just pulled it up. Yeah. Jerry Goldsmith.
And the chat did too.
Thank you, chat. We love you.
Yep.
Well, here's the thing. They had to learn so many different lines, and they may have had to learn them on the fly. So sometimes it does happen that you are going to get lines of dialogues messed up in your head. It can
also happen. Sometimes foreign languages they do what's known as false foreign languages in movies. Sometimes that could also be it.
Yeah, but
they call it Tagalog.
Yeah, but in this case, it wasn't fake. I think it was real Arabic, but he may have trying to keep his American lines and his Arabic lines straight.
Yeah. And that's fine. Now, we then see that they get to the waypoint to get ready for the starting line for the race to Hamunaptra. That Mirage scene is so freaking phenomenal.
I'm hoping Mrs. gets in here soon because I'm trying to rack my brain to figure out how the hell the Egyptians did that. I still cannot figure out how. I don't know how it's
see a freaking mirage that the sun.
Well, no,
or the sun
it's almost like it's like active. It's like light bending camouflage, like the Predator would use. And how they
kind of sure maybe. But I love that it's like, get ready for it. For what? We're about to be shown the way. Not fun fact. Jerry Goldsmith did the soundtrack for the movie, but hates the
movie. Well, that's his own.
Okay, do you hear a drone? Do you hear a droning sound behind me?
I heard on your end, but just passed.
Okay, because if you hear, or the heater just kicked on behind me. Okay. So that I cannot. Or I'm sorry if people hear it behind me. So
it's all right.
This is a 100-year-old house, so.
Orange, it's okay, buddy.
I can't stress that enough. Well, I'm talking more to the. I know it's okay with you. I'm talking to the chat.
Well, I think if the chat knows you, they understand. And if they don't, well, then poo on you.
Oh, I've stressed it enough. It's a 100-year-old house. I mean.
Oh. I believe you. Okay.
See the difference between the ceilings?
Yes, Dan.
100-year-old house. We can't eat, or we're still trying to finish the damn ceiling. But anyway, also you'll probably see freaking plate full of decon up there for mice.
Anyway,
yeah,
back to the movie.
Yeah.
Well,
freaking racing with camels and horses.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Benny's smacking O'Connell, and he just rips him off. Yeah. He just rips him off the damn. He's like, so long, Benny. And then you get Evie doing the teak, 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 teak. And it's like, that is the one. She knows how to get a camel going.
Yes, she does.
And she has such a beautiful smile, that woman.
She does, and he looks at her, and she looks at him, and he's like, there really is more to you than what appears.
Yeah. And then the camel decides to just give her a little bit more of a ride.
Yep.
And so they win because there's a wager. Yeah, they get a wager.
There was a wager
of $500
on the barge. Mm-hmm.
Yep, $500 to whoever gets there before the other. Mm-hmm. And I love the Egyptologist. He's like, oh, they're led by a woman. What does a woman know? That's the statue of Anubis. And it's just so great.
Prick. You smarmy prick. You're about to get your ass handed to you by a chick. And I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is so great. And hold on one moment. Seems that I'm having audio issues.
You're coming through good on my end.
Okay, internet, it's saying low connection status.
I swear I didn't do it. It wasn't me. It was the one on my end.
Yeah. So then they all get inside, and you get the nice mirror trick. Yep. And then they're going over the Sarneche, which is the preparation room.
Preparation for what? For entering the afterlife.
Yep. And mummies, my good sir. This is where they made the mummies.
The mummies.
And then they find the legs of Anubis. And they hear the noise, and then it's the others there, and they're like, I just love it. Guns up. It's like, oh, she's scared of Bachiza. Hey, that's my tool. No, I don't think so. Well,
okay, maybe I was
have
mistaken.
A nice day, gentlemen. Have a nice day, gentlemen. We have some work to do. Push off. This is our dig site. We got here first. And then they're like, yes, but there's four of me. Or this is our statue, friend. I don't see your name on it, pal. Yeah, well, there's several of us and only four of you. Great. Odds are not so great, O'Connell. I've had worse. And fucking Jonathan's like, yeah, me too.
Yeah, me too.
Really? And freaking O'Connell's like,
yeah.
Really?
And then Evie's like, she's like, oh my gosh.
She realizes there's a hollow underneath them.
Mm-hmm. She's like,
and she's like, oh, come on, children. If we got to learn to share. There are other places
to dig.
And so they go, or they find the under thing, and they're like, we're right under, or we should come up right under his legs. Mm-hmm. And if those damn Yanks, or when those damn Yanks go to sleep, Yanks go to sleep. No offense, none taken. We should be able to steal the boat right from it, or those beastly Americans. And it's like, no offense, none taken. And
he's like, I admit.
Where did our smelly friend go off to? Yeah.
Good.
Where did those smelly friend go off to? And he's freaking just exploring, finds the scare. It's like, dude, you think that dude is going like this on the drawing because he's doing a nice little dance? Have you noticed that those scarabs are all over his body?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's paying attention to the potential riches, not paying attention to what he's seeing.
What it could potentially mean. Hello.
Yeah, and then he drops one of the scarab skeletons, and one of them burrows into him, and he starts screaming. Now, that was some of the worst CGI I've seen. where it's crawling
True.
up his gut right here, and then gets up there, and it's like that wasn't very well translated.
But
However, the horror of the situation really
yeah.
sold because the score did very well in selling it too.
Yes.
And then they're talking about mummification, and you got freaking Jonathan using one of the picks as a golf club. It's like,
or maybe
it's
it's a
like,
cricket
for the
bat.
record, yeah. For the
Don't put me
record, if
down
I
for
don't make it out of here, don't put me down for
don't put me down for
mummification.
mummification.
Likewise. And the freaking sarcophagus lands down, and they're about to break into it. And while this is happening, the Egyptologists and the Americans are pulling out the Book of the Dead after their or after their workers. It's like, let's get us some treasure. Careful. Let's let the diggers do it. They get melted by freaking pressurized salt acid.
And that is, I will admit, that is a great effect. That is a great, great, great effect.
I mean, salt that's been there, that's just been there for thousands of years. Pretty sure it would burn if it's pure salt. So,
oh yeah, but it's pressurized and everything, and it has some sort of acidic factor to it, and you're like, yeah.
When they came out, man, it's like, oh geez, that hurts. Oh. Yeah. So where's Madam Ambassador? Is she still coming?
I think she just went to get her computer, so she should be on momentarily. So
awesome. So then, freaking Benny's even scared of the curse, and he's like, "It's a curse! It's a curse!
It's a curse! Well, the curse!
Superstitious bastard!" It's like, dude, sure, you kind of said that a little bit too robotically. And they open it up, and you get the mist and whatnot, and it's like, oh, okay, curse is triggered. Now, here's a good question for you to wonder. Does the curse being triggered set or cement the events in motion, or is it still chanced because just because the curse or the case is opened doesn't necessarily mean that the mummy is going to be raised? Now, let me ask you, does the curse or does the chest being opened make events work into the mummy being raised? Or is it all just coincidence? And have a good night, Riot Kitty.
Night, Riot. Good to see you, dear. I could go either way, really. But for the sake of the movie, I would say the curse has been enacted, and it's going to, and of course, Evie being a very inquisitive young woman, that's going to play into the factor of it being of her reading the book and raising Imhotep and enacting the next stage of the curse. But that's my 2 cents.
And so they all or as they're about to notice that, or they notice the key is, well, it's a key instead of just a puzzle box. And then they start hearing the screams. And dude, when this dude is screaming in the way that he's just acting, and it's like, seems we got a little bit of stuff here. Oh no.
Sorry, I was talking to the missus. Unfortunately, she's not going to be able to join us because her computer is updating.
That is fine.
So, poop on the
It's okay, Madam Ambassador.
There'll be other movies, sweetie. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. And so we have, or when he's screaming and shaking and gripping his head, you literally, it's like, holy crap. It's literally burrowing through his brain. I mean, this is the horror aspect that they really do touch on. And when he just, I mean, you're kind of terrified, and then this guy just runs head on into a wall. And when I was in the theater, I was like, what the hell? And then he smacks into the wall. I just died laughing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people did, so don't feel bad. But
I mean, it's like, I mean, folks, I know that he killed himself by running into the wall like that. By the way, if you pay close attention, he left a dent. He buckled that wall a little bit, and he just it's like, holy shit. Hey, Vanja, good to see you. And so then we're outside, and the Egyptologist is no, wait, we haven't got to that. Not yet. We haven't got to that.
No,
they're talking about or it's before they get to that, and it's like looks like the Americans had a little misfortune of their own because they're like, "What do you think killed him? Have you seen, or what do you think or killed him? Did you see how he eat or how he eats? Did you ever see him eat?" It's like, maybe this place really is cursed. And they're like, "Oh, for goodness sake, you two don't believe in curses, huh?" No, if I believe that if I could see it and touch it, then it's real.
Yeah.
And
hold on to your butt, sweetheart.
Yeah, let's see what our buddy the warden believed in. Picking through, and you think that we know that the warden put a lot of scarabs in his bag. And when he pulls it, he's like, "Ah!" And they're like, "Oh my god, what is it?"
It's a broken bottle.
Broken bottle.
Glenn Levitt. 12 years old.
12 years old. Well, he may have been a stinky fellow, but at least he had good taste.
I drank the same brand.
Nice. And so then we get the attack of the Magi and the stones on O'Connell, man. When O'Connell is just
a stick of dynamite.
He not only holds it up, he lights the fucker. He's like, "Come on, all right, come on, bring it on.
Come on."
And they're like, "Okay, enough. Look, or we'll shed no further blood, but you must leave this place or die. You have 1 day." And that's when they find the Book of the Dead and trigger the curse. And Evie is in there with getting ready to open up the sarcophagus. So I've been dreaming of this moment since I was a little girl. I've been dreaming about dead guys. And then she realizes this person, or the sacred spells are chiseled off. This person was condemned in not just this life, but in the next. And it's like, well, let's see who's in there. And then we get the big old scare, and they're all screaming. And she's like, "I hate it when these things do that." Is he supposed to look like that? No, he still looks juicy. They both said they're like, "Juicy." Yeah, I mean, he looks like he's still decomposing.
Yeah.
And his jaw is like off to the side over here. And then they find out, well, there's fingernails where he was trying to claw his way out. He was buried alive, and he left a message. Death is only the beginning, as Christian says here.
Yep. Death is only the beginning.
And this is when the Americans triggers the curse by opening up the Book of the Dead chest. Or the chest.
Yep.
So then we get to the scene. It's like she's walking, and the Americans are talking to each other, and Rick, and they're like, "We've heard you guys found a little gooey mummy. You know, if you dry that fella out, you might be able to sell him for firewood."
And I have to say that the American characters, they're I don't dislike them, but they seem too caricature-ish of Americans from the 1930s.
Well, this was during the 1930s or 20s, maybe. Did you notice the reference of the whole Eve from the Bible and Pandora's box with Eve read the book which led unleash evil Imhotep? Yes. A woman frickin' dooms the world. Tale as old as time.
Story old as rhyme.
Yep.
Girl in
Song
a book.
Is old as rhyme. And so she finds scarab skeletons, and she realized that this dude suffered the home die, and talking about how if a person of the home died, or she's heard that, or she's never heard of a single time that this curse had ever been bestowed or performed. And it's because they feared it so much, because if one should ever arise from the home die, they would be a walking plague on the earth. Mm-hmm. So, if you do a little bit of Bible study, where they have talked about Revelations, and
not so much Revelation, it's the 10 plagues of Egypt, which is actually
there are parallels. There are parallels to
little problem.
Catholic.
Little problem.
Mm-hmm.
Seti was Pharaoh before Ramses. Imhotep was Seti's high priest.
Mm-hmm.
Ramses was not Pharaoh yet, nor was, I think, was he? Well, no, he would have been alive, but he would have been very young. The plagues took place during Ramses' reign before the Exodus. This movie takes place well before the Exodus of the Israelite or the Hebrews from Egypt. So there is one biblical and / historical inaccuracy.
Now, yes, that is true, but the point I was making was that there are parallels to the plagues of Egypt, the death of firstborns, the flies, frogs, and all that other stuff, fire from the skies, the dead walking. Those or many of those are actually in the book of Revelations, if I remember correctly.
And it's Revelation, not Revelations.
Or the book of Revelation. There you go. And I'm thinking, maybe we all studied that, or maybe every ancient religion was actually the same religion, and they just went by different names.
Well, every culture, every
religion, the Catholic religion is an extremely refined version of ancient religions. You never know. It might be. You never know. It might be true.
I know that the Christian Church, both Protestant and Catholic alike, have incorporated certain elements of paganism to make it.
Every religion has taken pieces of its predecessors.
Yeah.
But we're not here to discuss religion. We're here to raise a mummy. So,
yes, we are. Let's raise. How to raise a mummy?
Yeah.
So, raise a mummy. First, you need the mummy. Then you need a very inquisitive librarian and that reads and writes ancient Egyptian, and then you need the Book of the Dead.
Yep. So after the desert people leave, the Magi, freaking Evie's getting drunk with O'Connell and learning how to punch, and she's like completely drunk with O'Connell, and she's like, "I'm gonna kiss you, Mr. O'Connell," and he's like. And I also like, what is a girl, or what is a place like me doing in a girl like this?
And she tells a story about her mom and her dad. And she's like, my father was a very famous explorer. And he loved Egypt so much that he married my mother, who was an Egyptian.
Yep.
And quite an adventurer herself.
Mm-hmm. No, I know it might not be a soldier or a gunfighter, Mr. O'Connell. But I am proud of what I am.
And what's that?
And that is, I am a librarian.
And now I'm going to kiss you, Mr. O'Connell.
Yep, and then she passes out. So then, or then we get to the next, or then we get to her, or the next night is when they were, the next night is when they start talking about the 12 plagues and her talking about how the mummy should rise and whatnot. And then she takes the freaking book from the damn Egyptologist, and Rick sees it, he's like, "That's called stealing, according to you and my brother. It's called borrowing." And he's like, "I thought the Book of Amun-Ra was made out of gold." "It is made out of gold. This isn't the Book of Amun-Ra. This is something else. I think this may be the Book of the Dead." Do you really want to be fucking with a book like that? It's like, do you really want to be messing around with that thing? "Oh, it's just a book. No harm ever came out of reading a book." I believe
book.
There is great harm of reading a book. I mean, look at Hocus Pocus. Because at the time, that movie came out first before The Mummy.
It did. It did. Yes, it did.
And it summoned the witches.
Yes, it did.
Anyway.
Yep.
She ends up reading the freaking incantation that just coincidentally raises freaking Hemotep. And that's when, yep. And that is indeed one of the scarier moments in the trailer as well as the movie. You must not read from the book. And because the way that he acts it is just so well done.
Yeah, it's perfect. I mean,
he
is panicked.
Exactly. It's like, you must not read from the book. And then you see the mountains turn into locusts, which is some of the worst CGI I've ever seen.
Oh, picky.
No, I'm just being fair. This is a review and a discussion.
I know.
And so then you see the locust crawling all over that guy. What have we done?
You've raised the dead.
Well, if you really need a recap of what you did, you stole some canopic jars. You stole a holy book.
You opened the cursed chest.
Yep, you opened a cursed chest. So yeah, that's what you did. So now everybody's running from the locust to get away from them, because you also see these locusts start ripping up people. And then the guy with the glasses freaking falls over, and you see Benny, leave me, freaking talking to a piece of fabric. It's like, it's a piece of fabric, dude. And then he steps on the dude's glasses, and he's like, wait for me. And that scene also is terrifying, because you're seeing it kind of blurry here and there, and you can't see anything. And then he turns and screams. This is where the horror aspect really does come in, folks. And that is something that I really do like, is that they actually do keep it as a horror aspect. And
the nice thing about this movie is it builds the tension. It builds the tension naturally. It builds in, but once it starts going, oh boy, does it start going!
Oh yes, when he's raised, the pace picks up really well, and so they're running, or scarabs start burrowing out, and it's like, as soon as he's awake, even the scarabs wake up,
Mm-hmm.
And so then they're trying to get out of there. She falls into a trap door, and she finds Mr. Burns, who turns him around, and his eyes and tongue are missing. My eye. And she's like, and then she sees him. I mean, her scream is not girly, which I like. It's not as seriously girly scream. Did you think practical effects would help the movie, or what other answers you got?
Well, the fact is, there are some things that practical effects cannot do, and
at the time, especially.
At the time, especially. I mean, this is like 1999, last year, the 90s. It's going to be, some things cannot just be pulled off, but even though the CGI effects are not perfect, I do applaud them for the effort, because they did try to make some of these effects look good, and to varying degrees they did succeed. So I can forgive effort rather than I can forgive shoddy workmanship. And this was not shoddy. This was ILM. This is
as best as they could do at the time.
Yeah, exactly. Because the software the graphic software just didn't exist yet for them to do what they really wanted to do. But
not to mention, when was the last time you've ever seen somebody without their eyes? Because that was digitally done.
Yeah, and it looked pretty damn good. It did.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And then you see imperfect sighted Emotep come in. And she's like, I just love that. And so everybody's running, and he's thinking she's a Naxuna moon. And Burns is like, you took my tongue. And I love how Brendan Fraser reacts, whoa! And Emotep decides to do his little roar. And
and Emotep actually screams and falls down. You're like,
yeah. Well, he did just get his hip blasted out, remember? So, yeah. He just got spun around by a shot or by a 12 gauge.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it was walking. And he's like, and then they run into the Magi. Told you to leave or die. You refused. Now you may have just killed us all. For you have unleashed a creature that we have feared for more than 3,000 years. Relax, I got him. No mortal weapons can kill this creature. He is not of this world. And then they show,
Mr. Burns.
Dude fucking kills it, man. And they show, and it's like, you bastards, what did you do? We saved him. Saved him before the creature could continue his work. Oded Fair just does it so well. And while after they're done talking, it's like, we have to leave here now. And just before they do, they cut back to Benny, who is still running around with a torch, and he's walking backward, and Hemotep's right behind him. And he's going all through different prayers. Then he starts speaking Hebrew. Mm-hmm. And that's when the mummy realizes it's like the language of the slaves. Now, for those of you who don't know your history, Ambassador, give a little bit.
Well, at this point, there would have been slaves in Egypt, Hebrew slaves or Israelite slaves. And I think that would have been working a lot of the major building projects. As I said, this part of this movie, particularly the beginning, does take place before the exodus out of Egypt by the Hebrews. And so obviously Imhotep would be familiar with that because he was a high priest. He probably did have dealings with various Israelites or anything for building projects and so on. Who knows? And there would be a rather substantial population of Hebrews or Israelites in Egypt at that time.
Yep. And that's why he recognized the language. He's like, I may have use for you, and the rewards will be great. And showing him, oh, my prince. Now, where are the rest of the sacred jars?
Yeah, he's like...
He's really pissed off about that, considering he only had one. And then they start running out, and you see the hand come up, and it's like... Yeah. Now, they're back in Cairo, or they're not... No, they're back at Fort Byron. And they're just freaking out, and we also get introduced to Winston, who's just slowly dying of boredom and booze, all of his friends died in the Great War. He wants to die. Winston wants to die. Go ahead.
Well, when we were watching this the other night in preparation for this review, I couldn't for the life of me... There he is. The actor's name is Bernard Fox. He was born May 11th, 1927, died December 14th, 2016. He was a British actor, obviously. Well, Welsh, excuse me. I beg your pardon. a lot of different roles he did throughout the years. I mean, he was a great character actor here. He really was. He did some really good roles besides Winston. He was in Bewitched. He was in the Hogan's Heroes. He was in the Allen Zone, whatever that was. He was in Columbo. He actually had a somewhat more notable role in Titanic. He played the one of the few nicer rich people.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember anything, he was the one anything that he's like he was the older gentleman who said, "Women and machinery simply do not mix."
Yes, I do remember him.
That was it. He was also had an uncredited role and everything at the beginning of Big Jake. He was the sheep farmer.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I'm just trying to go through this, kind of give the highlights. He was an F Troop. Let's see. He was in Dream of Jeannie or I Dream of Jeannie and Knight Rider, Murder She Wrote, Pee-wee's Playhouse. I mean, he did a lot of roles. A lot of roles.
And then
go ahead.
I do, or he's talking with this heavyset Egyptian woman who's kind of like a brothel kind of deal.
Yeah.
And he's walking over the damn he walks over the
walks in the fountain.
In the fountain, and he's like, "Some poor fool spilled his drink." And then O'Connell comes in. "How you doing, Winston?" "You know, O'Connell." And then he goes over his little story again and walks through the damn puddle again. And is like, and he looks back doing a double take. And you also see Jonathan drinking. He's like, "We'll head out first light tomorrow. Tail tucked firmly between your legs, I see. Well, you could talk. You don't have some sick corpse walking after or coming after you."
Yeah.
He's like, "How's your friend?" He's had his tongue and his eyes ripped out. "How would you feel?" And we see that Burns is upstairs talking with Hemotep and Benny. And Benny freaking terrifies him just before he dies. And it's like, when he pulls off the mask and shows the face, that is actually one of the weaker CGI shots of his face because his eyes kind of just are crossed really badly.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit.
His eyes are not even. But one's looking like that way, the other's kind of looking like that way.
But the one part of that effect that does work is the scarabs scattering inside of him. That right there. Yeah. At least he has a snack.
Mm-hmm. And then we see, everybody's doing cheers and everybody's spitting out the drink and it's like, tastes just like blood. And then we get the nice, "He's here" scene, which is straight from the trailer, which it's like, oh gosh, dude, this is bad. The bad guy's here. And then we see
Benny.
Yep. We see Benny is not there, actually. He's looking for the book still. And we see that everybody kicks in just as they're running and Benny comes down and they're like, "Oh, Evelyn, we need to talk." And then we get the fires from the sky curse. Now, out of the 10 plagues of Egypt, only like 6 of them make it in.
Yeah.
We already had we already had locust.
And then we have water to blood, and then we had the burning hail.
So that's 3 so far. And then he gets up there and they see him regenerating. And then the cat comes across the piano and is like, out.
Run away!
And I love how he spins around. And I love how when he's spinning, he turns into the sand and his hands go like this. And it's like basically,
effect.
Yeah. And then he's just out the window. Mm-hmm. We are in serious trouble. We are in very serious trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go to the Egyptologist, the curator.
Yeah.
And Ardath is there. I was like, what is he doing here? Well, do you want to know, or would you just rather shoot us? And so they explain.
Mm-hmm.
And I love this. And you think that justifies the killing of innocent people to stop this creature? Let me think. Yes. I just love that. It's like, yes. And when it comes to something that is literally world-ending potential, to kill an innocent person in order to keep them away from potentially harming the planet as a whole, that is justifiable. As crazy and as evil as that sounds, folks, it is wrong to kill a person. Thou shalt not kill. But weigh the options. Do you want that person to accidentally raise a fucking mummy that could kill the world? Or do you take that life in order to keep that creature from ever being discovered? One must weigh options in ways they do not like.
Yeah. And Neozo
and so
go ahead.
Go ahead,
Marge. Well, Neozo brings up, I think, a very good question, a very interesting question. I know this may sound unfair, different comparison, but how would you compare 1999 Imhotep with Boris Karloff's 1930s version?
You go ahead. I can't answer that. I have not seen the 30s version.
You've never seen the 30s version?
Nope. I haven't seen the original monster films. Eventually I will.
None of them?
Ugh. I may have seen a little bit of the Wolfman, but that was about it.
You should, at least once. Well, Neozoic, beings orange and everything, I'm not saying that to be rude. Beings he can't field this one, I will field it. And I'll go a little in depth here. Considering the time and effort and work that went into all the practical makeup effects for Imhotep, for Boris Karloff, particularly for the beginning where you only see him in the bandages for maybe all of 10 minutes at the most. But not only that, the makeup effects for him as Ardeth Bey in the human form of the mummy. I have to say, and I do not, this is not me taking a pot shot at the people at ILM. Practical effects always take more time and more effort, not to mention the guy who did the practical effects for a lot of the Universal Monster movies, a guy who was woefully unknown in his time, and granted, and thankfully not so much in this time, because he inspired so many other prosthetic makeup effects people and artists. I have to say the time and effort, not only on Karloff's part, but the guy who did the work, it is superior. But I will say this: the time and effort that it took to build the CGI models, and for Arno Vosloo for some of the prosthetic work that he had to have for his role as Imhotep, both have their strengths. Both are, I think, very iconic. I have to admit it. Arnold Vosloo as Imhotep is iconic. It looks great. I mean, it's a bit dated, but even so, you take a look at the work that they did in this movie and look at some of the stuff that they have done since, and you can see the underpinning, you can see the foundations for other CGI characters that would come after. So I think, honestly, there really isn't. It's not fair to compare them because they are two different art mediums in terms of effects. One is more digital, the other is more practical, but they both show a degree of expertise and ingenuity, and I think they both have their merits. So I hope that answers your question, Neozoic, and thank you for your question. It is a good one. I was going to actually bring that up, but you beat me to the punch, and salute.
Mm-hmm. Also, Arnold Vosloo, in relation to that, I've only ever seen him in one movie before that, and that was Hard Target with Jean-Claude Van Damme. So
He was
yeah.
Well, actually, he started his career started before The Mummy. Actually, there were a couple of direct-to-video sequels to a little movie that you might have heard of, Orange, called Darkman by Sam Raimi.
Yep.
In the original, Liam Neeson played the main character of Darkman.
Yeah.
Vosloo reprised the role in the two direct-to-video sequels, and he did I think, honestly, an outstanding job. Arnold Vosloo, I think, honestly, is a very underrated actor. I hope he's gone on to do other things in his career because he is a very solid
NCIS.
actor.
He was in NCIS for a while.
That's right. I think, yeah. I'd have to ask the missus, but I think you're right.
He is very talented, or he played in he played a character that was opposite Gibbs for a while.
Oh, okay.
One of the or Mossad, I believe. Within Mossad, I believe.
That would make sense. In terms of performance, Neozoic, Vosloo is a very solid actor, and he's gone on to do different things throughout his career. Karloff will always be known primarily for the horror movies he did, of course, for one very iconic piece of voice acting, of course, was as the Grinch. So, actually, can I hold her?
She's falling asleep.
Oh, okay, never mind. I like to. Making her appearance to all you people here, I introduce the newest addition to the Ambassadorial wing, the Lady Anna, or Lady Annie. Say hi, Annie. If you can probably hear her.
Oh, I can hear her purring.
And of course, for those of us who know, those of us who are fans of Egyptology, much like Madame Ambassador is, these were the guardians of the underworld. Although I don't think they were quite as adorable as this little lady here. Hi, Annie. Hi, sweetie. Okay, time for Betty bye. Go to Mama. I'll go off camera for just a second. Yeah. But yeah, in terms of the performances, I think the performances were actually rather good. I will say, however, I think Karloff brought a little something extra to his performance because he didn't have all of the makeup effects that we have now, the CGI effects that we have now that they didn't have then. But they both have their strengths. They have their nuance and everything. Karloff was a very skilled and a very gifted actor. It was just
considering he played more than one monster.
Yeah, because he played the Mummy, he played Frankenstein's monster, he was in several other horror and suspense thrillers throughout the 1930s and 40s, and he even worked all the way up into the 60s. I mean,
Karloff was an Karloff. My favorite Boris Karloff film is actually Arsenic and Old Lace.
We actually own that one on VHS, and
it's one of the most hilarious movies.
It is. when I was in college and everything, just a few years ago, my first year and everything, when I was in seminary, I was part of a drama club. And one of the very first production I ever worked on was a stage production of Arsenic and Old Lace. A lot of fun. I actually had two roles. I had the role of a homeless man and a pastor, which made sense because I was going to seminary at the time. But yeah, honestly, I'm not saying Armavasu isn't a good actor. He is, but Karloff will always be king.
Yeah.
Him and Lugosi.
As for me,
go ahead.
The mummy or the clips that I've seen of the Karloff mummy, what did he do the whole stiff-legged walk and whatnot?
Yes, that was him.
So essentially, in this movie, a lot of the other performers who were the priests of Imhotep actually did a lot of their mimicry of Boris Karloff's movements as they were moving through. Where
I would not be surprised.
Imhotep was more fluid in his movement. The rest of the mummies they wanted to keep them lesser so that they were not as fluid in their movements. So yes, they did more stiff-legged and more Boris Karloff movement. So in a way, that is how they paid tribute to Boris Karloff.
Yeah. And well, this wouldn't be the question for me, Niazog, but I'll ask this. Hey, honey, question for you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't cats represent justice, fertility, and power in the ancient in Egypt, not the underworld?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, cats were worshipped as deities.
Yes, I mean the Egyptian goddess Bast,
Sekhmet, and many others.
Yeah,
Sekhmet was a very bloodthirsty goddess.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
she's the original Karen. Let's just say that. She's the original feminist icon of anti-male propaganda, shall we say? Because Sekhmet was also known as the manslayer. Mm-hmm. She killed men for pleasure.
Bast wasn't quite as bloodthirsty.
No, Bast was more benevolent and reverent, where Sekhmet, Amun-Ra actually had to step in and say, okay, I'm going to tell you guys how to do this, and you guys are going to have to put her to sleep. Well, 1,000 barrels of ale and a lot of pomegranates to make it look like blood. And she drank 1,000 barrels of ale, and well, she was calmer then. It's like, well, get this bitch drunk, and there you go. Sorry. It's like,
no offense taken.
It's freaking slaked her thirst enough, and that's the story, or that's the taming of Sekhmet, which is all part of Egyptian lore, so it's still relevant to the story. But getting back to it, we then see, or they're trying to figure out more stuff, and we see the eclipse. So that's the fourth plague. And they have to figure out, okay, so who opened that chest? They find the they now have to go looking for the Egyptologist, and Evie's locked in the room. We're going to go a little bit further. We can't just keep going scene by scene, because otherwise we're going to be here all night.
Yeah.
But
we can jump ahead some.
I do like the terrifying where you see the Egyptologist running through the streets terrified, and you see that he's reacting to everything, and then you see Imhotep behind him slowly walking up, and then you see him go up to the camera like this, and then back, and Imhotep's just like right there. It's like, dude, he can move pretty fast for a dead guy.
Yeah, really fast.
And Benny's looking in his office. He's like, oh, let me guess, spring cleaning. And when he throws that chair, man, he's like,
oh, man.
Whoosh. When it smacks the back of Benny's legs, it's like, I felt that. And it doesn't feel too good.
And then he picks him up and holds him like a
up to the
breadth ceiling fan, and that's a metal ceiling fan.
Mm-hmm. You can hear the freaking metal sound, the metal scraping sound. And there's nothing like a threat of death like that to actually get you to open your mouth. What are you looking for? And try not to lie to me. And he holds him up. And I love how when they hear the dude scream, Benny just knees him in the nuts.
Ouch, down population you.
Yep. And then we see Benny jump out the window and then come up like right in front of you. And it's like, stunt actor Benny.
Good job.
And I love that. Yeah. And so then we see Arnold Vosloo looking, well, a little bit more skin to where it actually starts to look a little bit more like Arnold Vosloo. And then we get the next plague, which is flies.
And he's
just walking through.
Out.
Yeah, they're coming through his whole body and everything. So, locust, blood,
hail, burning hail,
flaming hail.
Yeah.
Darkness, eclipse, and the flies. That's 5 out of the 10. And then we get the next one later on, which is boils and sores. And that's only 6 of the 10 that we see. Now, we also know that frogs and sons of the pharaohs are 2 others, so that's 8. What were the other 2? We'd have to look it up.
It's been a while.
So, yeah. So, the only thing missed when Rick throws the chair at Benny is Jim Ross's comment. Yes, that hurt. Looked like it hurt.
Or
nice shot. Yeah, he's like, nice shot. Yeah.
I just remembered the death of the livestock and the death of the crops.
So famine and death and famine.
Well,
essentially.
Yeah, if I remember correctly.
Well, then doesn't make sense to put them in there because they wouldn't really translate well into the story.
No.
Because if we don't see it, or we'd have to see like a field of camels all bloated and dead out in the freaking desert. And let me tell you something. If you see a bloated desert in the camel, folks, or bloated desert in the camel, a bloated camel in the desert, don't touch it. Don't touch it. In fact, get the fuck away from it. Because that sucker will blow up and you will get sick.
Yeah, badly.
Because the water and the fats inside that thing are all breaking down and it can become very
toxic.
Yeah. Kind of like a bloated elephant and whatnot. And bloated whales. You ever seen those exploding whales videos on YouTube?
No, and I don't want to.
I have. Some of them are pretty funny because you see one dude doing the cut, and then it's just like guts everywhere and blood everywhere. It's like this is the kind of blood and guts that I'll laugh at.
There are just some things in life I do not need to see.
Now, or one of the other, after the flies, you see the other 2 Americans. One of them's like, going downstairs, get a drink. You want anything? Yeah, get me a bourbon or glass of bourbon and a shot of bourbon and a bourbon chaser. Yeah, I'll get you your damn jerk. I'll get you your damn bourbon. So then we see Hemotep suck him up. We see his shadow just go, and then you see Hemotep come in and chewing on a scarab. Yep. He's more constituted, which when he starts kissing Evelyn, his face starts rotting.
Yep. Because he's not kissing his girlfriend who he's trying to get back to life.
And then he's like, Rick comes in. He's like, "Get your ugly face up!" Yes, look what I got. Whew. And the cat actually hisses at him, like, and it's like, yep. I just love that whole. It's comedy that worked in the moment. It was really perfectly done.
Yeah.
And he just turns and runs, and it's like, "You all right?" "Yeah, not sure." Freaking Jonathan. They look back at Jonathan. Like, "You fucking serious?"
Not talking to you, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Shut your face.
So then we get back to the Egyptologist, or back to the museum, and you see the curator going over the same thing as Evie, as they see the boils and sores and Hemotep
is taking control of them.
Yeah.
Imhotep. Boom. Imhotep. Boom.
Yep. And so she's translating, and you see the Egyptologist or the curator look up like, "Wow, she's pretty fucking good."
Yeah.
Where they're looking for the Amun-Ra, or the Book of Amun-Ra.
They swapped the places, swapped where the books were buried.
Yep.
And the Book of Amun-Ra is in the
Statue
Book
of Horus.
Take that, Bembridge scholars.
Yep. And so it's like, patience is a virtue. Not right now, it isn't.
No, it's not. You know, I know Stephen Sommers has gotten some flack for some of his work, but I have to say it. This movie, the writing is so well balanced. You've got enough seriousness, you've got enough epicness, you've got enough goofiness. It all it meshes nicely. It really, really does.
It's action, it's comedy, and it's also horror. And they do a good job with it, because then they have to bring the car around. Hemotep's up there, and he's screaming with his shadow growing. And so then they drive, and the last guy, the last American with the canopic jar, falls off the car, and he starts blasting, and it's like, and then you see Hemotep come up, and well, now he's fully regenerated. And they take Evie, and she's like, if I become a mummy, you're the first one I'm coming after. Which is a nice little touching romantic moment.
Yeah.
And he does, or the mummy's like, come with me and I'll spare your friends. Well, he doesn't. It's like, kill them all. Pure villain moment. And the curator sacrifices himself.
Like a badass.
Yep. Get out of here. Go. And what about my sister? We'll get her back.
And that's when we come back to Mr.
Winston. So what does your predicament have to do? What does your predicament have to do with the British or with Her Majesty's Royal Air Force? Not a damn thing. Is it dangerous? Well, you probably won't live through it.
Really?
So what's the challenge then? So what's the challenge then? Rescue the damsel, destroy the bad guy, save the world.
Save the world. Ha ha! Winston, have a look at your service, sir. Ha ha!
I love that. And so we get the flying. It's like, you all right? Do I bloody look all right?
All right.
And you see Ardith.
Ardith is having a blast.
Yeah, he's like, how you doing? You see that? I've never seen one that big. Never?
Oh,
no.
Never.
It's a big old sandstorm or a tornado, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love how that just tosses out Evie and Benny. And she's just like, get off me. Get off. I need a new job. And so then we get the nice we get the nice sandstorm and the face in the storm, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And she kisses him. And
before we get that, just before she kisses him, you actually see his lips moving, and he's actually says, "Kiss me." If you read his lips,
I never caught that.
Yeah, it's like, kiss me, and It's like, kiss me. And so she starts kissing him, and it's like, okay, that happened. And I really do like how when his face comes up out of the sand or in the sand wall, it just starts smiling at him. And then it opens up the mouth to go after him. And well, she drops the sand wall, but they still crash, and then it's quicksand, and Winston is dead. So he's like, "I'm coming, laddies!"
But I have to say it. He died with a smile on his face.
Oh, indeed, he did. And he finally got to see his laddies, his fellow squad mates.
Yep.
And then the quicksand sank it, so they get in there, and the mummy's getting everything ready, digging Anaxunamun up, and they're coming in, digging out I love how freaking Jonathan, he's like, all right, take it from the top, otherwise the whole damn thing's gonna come on, put your backs into it. And they just turn around and look at him and ready to fucking kill him. And he's like, oh, all right, chop.
I'm gonna just shut up and go away now.
Yep, and then he gets the scarab up his arm, and he's like, do something, not that, plop. And
plop, bang.
Yeah, he alerts the mummy, which he takes some of the powdered organ to raise his mummies or his priests.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it's like, who the hell are these guys? Priests. Imhotep's priest. Okay, all right then. And they just start unloading. And this is when you realize that Ardeth Bey has a fetish for
guns,
machine guns. He prefers the Thompson. In the second movie, he's like, you want the shotgun? No, I prefer the Thompson.
Fair enough. Because it reminds him of the gun he used on the airplane or off the airplane.
Yeah. Right. And it's like, you see how they're moving, and it's Boris Karloff all over again.
Yeah.
And I love how freaking Jonathan pulls out Rick's guns, and Rick he's unloading, and then Jonathan pulls it. He's like, really? And Jonathan, after he runs out, instead of just turning and running, throws the freaking pistol at the damn mummy, like, oh, like that's gonna. And Brandon's like, it's my fucking gun, man. Get over here. So, dude, you know how much those fucking guns cost?
Don't worry. He can get new ones.
Yep. So then it's a race against time. Well, we then see Anaxunamun raised. Mm-hmm. And they get the Book of Amun-Ra, and Ardeth is like, save the girl, kill the creature, and he goes to sacrifice himself. So you think he's going to die. And then we get into the main crux of it, where they're about to kill her. And freaking Jonathan's like, the Book of Amun-Ra, I found it, found it. And it's like, we need the key. It's in his robes. And we get the nice little action sequence of chopping up mummies.
And then Jonathan awakens the mummified guard.
Yep. He's like, here's an inscription. Rashimu Rashilumu Kashka.
Yeah.
And I love that how they roar at Brendan Fraser, he's like, Rick screams at them, and then they scream back, and he's like, He's like, and he runs. It's like, oh my god, I love that. It's like
He's like, no, these aren't like the other mummies I can chop into little pieces. These are armed and they look dangerous.
Not only that, they're also incredibly agile.
Yes, that too.
So they're kind of like in between Karloff and Vosloo mummies. So
Yes.
These guys are just jumping all over the place, having a nice little thing, and then freaking Jonathan's trying to finish the inscription, and Evie's trying to get the hell away from an Ox in the Moon who's trying to kill her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I can't figure out this last signal. What's it look like? It's a bird, a stork, a melephus.
Melephus.
And so he finishes it.
A melephus.
Yep. Pushes on a melephus, and it stops them just as they're about to kill Rick. And he's like,
Vakushka and Ox on the Moon. And then
yep.
And they go.
You actually hear her scream. You actually hear her scream. Emotep. And then she gets stabbed and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, give me that book.
Come get it.
And and then he gets his arm chopped off. And I love how he's like
making sure it's all
right. Like putting his arm back on. And I'm like, wow.
He's like, okay, I'll make this comparison. It's not just because you're wearing the shirt. He's like Deadpool.
Yeah, he is like Deadpool, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love how it's like, keep him busy. And freaking, he's just getting thrown around. No problem. Now, here's a good question. When they actually call in the cast of souls, or the carriage of souls, why did he just stand there? It's like, dude, I don't know about you.
Guard, really.
I'd be hauling ass away from that area because they're only allowed to run in that specific track. They would not be able to run outside of the track that they were on. They come down out of the portal of the underworld down to catch the soul that is in the right area and then back into the other. It's like, should have moved. And then it's like, not the soul. It's like, you almost hear him saying, it almost sounds like he's saying, not the soul, not the soul. But he's saying something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Of course, during all this, Benny is like,
yeah, he's hoarding the freaking
gold treasure. And when I have to say this, and just real quick,
go ahead.
When the three guys find the treasure room, and they're like, Jonathan's like, do you see? Yeah. Do you know? Yeah. Can we? No.
No. It's like, no. Can we just no?
Just no.
And I also like how Benny is looking or admiring the piece, and then he looks in there like you see that defeated look on his face. It's like, I need more. He knows it's dangerous, but he's still going back in for more.
Yep.
So then it's like, I thought you said I was going to kill him, and he gets stabbed, and you see the bloody hand. He's mortal.
It killed him. You just have to kill him.
We see him ducking into the well of souls, and then he says out loud, or distorted, death is only the beginning in ancient Egyptian.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Kamen Rider, good to see you. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, he's been here for a few minutes.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't notice. I've been looking elsewhere and everywhere else, but sorry. Haven't really focused on the screen.
Sure you have.
I'm getting tired. But anyway,
we're almost at the end.
Yeah, so then Benny puts one of those freaking heavy bags
on the lever.
On the lever to sink Hymenoptera.
And you're like, do you not notice the lever has the head of Anubis on it? Did you not stop to think that is bad?
Yeah. And I love how he gets out and he's like, wait for me. And Rick's out there. He's like, come on, man, come on. And he's like, wait. Well, he gets cut. And he's like, so long, Benny. And Benny's looking at different places. He sees a freaking beetle or a scarab coming up at him. And he's like, shushes it away. And then he's realizing that everything else is getting crushed, including the mirrors. And the scarabs and the lights going out because no more oxygen. And then, Benny gets chewed up.
Eaten. Yep. The last thing you hear is crunch, crunch, scream.
And of course, our three heroes and get away.
Ardeth Bay has made it out.
Yeah, Ardeth made it out.
Scares the hell out of Jonathan. And also, they have some wealth that they didn't even realize they had.
Yep. And I have to say, the one thing I do like is Ardeth says, "You've earned the respect of me and my people."
Yeah.
I think that's a nice touch.
Yeah, because now they will actually look to him as an equal.
Yes. As he should be.
Yeah. And I absolutely love, this movie really is a great retelling of The Mummy.
It is.
To the point where we enjoy it immensely.
Mm-hmm.
And how would you rate it?
Even with the semi-dated effects, it's perfect. It's a 10. To me,
objectively, I always do my 3-tier.
I know, and that's fine.
Objectively, I would say it's about an 8. The effects are dated and a little bit more comedy when it's supposed to be based on a horror. But for the most part, it's an 8 out of 10. That's a pretty good score.
Oh, yeah.
That's an 80 out of 100 in school score. So that's basically a B.
Mm-hmm.
Or B, that's B minus. Where subjectively, it's definitely a 10 out of 10. I really enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
Moviegoer, it's a 10 out of 10 because this is a movie that is very enjoyable. It's one that you can go back and watch again and again, and it doesn't lose its appeal at all. Neozoic's opinion on the Scorpion King movie. I've only seen it like twice, and I honestly thought the original Scorpion King was good.
Yeah, the spin-off film, the first one with The Rock, not all the other direct-to-video ones that they did
with other actors.
Yeah. Honestly, the original one with The Rock, I would give it a 7.5 out of 10. I enjoy it. I recognize it for what it is. I will say, I think it is kind of fits in that same category of the Conan films with Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Kamen Rider. I love those.
Mm-hmm. Watch my review that I made earlier for it.
I won't speak to it. Didn't see it. I didn't see it, so I can't speak to it.
I will not speak to it on here. This is a mummy discussion show. I tend to stay on topic. Now, thank you so much for Ambassador to choosing this movie. Folks, if you want to do another guest choice review during the month of October, I'm hoping that we all pick horror movies if you decide to do one. And you get to come on, you get to come to my channel, you get to pick the time and the date and the movie. Hopefully it's one that you enjoy, not one that you want to rip apart, because I want to make these guest choice reviews into movies that we're enjoying. So yeah, also stay tuned for Tuesday, where I will be doing another mystery review for the hint being based on a true story of a priest who is possessed. Enjoy that. And then I will be ending the mystery reviews. Well, you'll get the hints for that on the next one. Anyway, Master, give yourself a plug before we go.
Well, my channel is the Ambassadorial Wing. We talk cinema, retro, ultra retro, and modern. We also talk streaming. We talk television shows, 80s and 90s, and we have a good time doing it. We discuss it, we debate it, we celebrate it. It is a lot of fun. If you're not already subscribed and you enjoyed this review, come on over, check out some of my content, and of course, if you come across this and you're not subscribed to Orange Hat Reviews as well, give him a sub. He does a lot of great work. He does a lot of. I have worked with him numerous times, and it's always a pleasure. It's always fun, and it's always have him. It's also great to have him as a guest as well over in my neck of the woods. So, but Orange, my friend, happy Halloween.
Oh, it's not Halloween yet, so yeah.
But it is the month of the witch.
Close enough, yeah.
So
yeah, it's season of the witch.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely. Thanks for dropping in and recommending, and give my best to Madam Ambassador.
I most certainly will.
Anyway, folks, you can catch this on the replay. Y'all know y'all know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Did you enjoy The Mummy? Did you not? What was your favorite parts? Let me know all that, folks. This has been Orange Hat Reviews and Ambassador. Stay humble.